Hey, you're listening to the Bandwagoners. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name is Justin Boniface, and we're bringing you news and notes from around the NHL.
How you doing tonight, man?
Not too bad. A little dry spell here between rounds. So.
Yeah, I got 2 days off before we fully get back
Yeah,
into
and
it?
both games tomorrow, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, that's weird because you got a game at 2:30 and a game at 5:30. What is it? It's the Pittsburgh... Boston won at 2:30, I believe.
Really?
Let me just double check that. But I know you got a game at 2:30, and it's weird because then on Sunday, one of the series is back to back. Like they're playing 2 games in a row, which is very unusual in the playoffs,
especially in the third round. I mean, the first round revolving around lots of stadium schedules, like there's 16 teams there. But at this stage,
I'm pretty sure it's because of the lockout. Like the lockout caused a lot of these stadiums to get booked in advance,
exactly,
right? So
yeah.
they have to scramble for these dates, and they don't really have much of a selection. Yeah, you got LA Chicago tomorrow at 2 p.m. Boston, Pittsburgh at 5, and then Sunday,
that makes more sense.
Sunday, LA and Chicago play again. So LA, Chicago, they're playing back to back, and the annoying thing for that is they're the 2 teams that just went to the game 7s. So they only had like a day off realistically before they had to start practicing.
Well,
again.
Somebody better win that series fast so they can have a break before the final.
That's going to be a really great series to watch. So before we get into round 3, obviously we'll wrap up round 2. None of the series had ended on the last show. The closest one was Pittsburgh and Ottawa, as Pittsburgh was up 3-1 at the time. So I guess that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh wins in 5 games. We both picked 6. It was a 3-1, or what was it? 3-1, or so they 4-1. Sorry,
I win 4 games to win a round.
4 plus 1 is 5. Yeah, I'm there. We go. Andy's awake. 4. So it was a 4-1 series. Pittsburgh wins 4-1. Were you surprised at all by that?
No, I mean it could have been anywhere from a sweep to 6. I couldn't see that going 7. Realistically, I mean it's just straight on paper, you have to look at the fact that Pittsburgh is just a better team.
Yeah,
and you had to see it coming. Really the only question going in was Vaucoon starting a series from square one, and he showed up and was excellent.
And
so.
you can't discount Ottawa's storybook season as well. I mean, you never know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, realistically, we both said 6, so we were off by 1 game, but we both did predict Pittsburgh to win. Other than the 1 game where Ottawa won, and they did look like the better team in that 1 game, Pittsburgh dominated the play largely. It was... not an uninteresting series. It was definitely more interesting than Boston, New York, but only interesting because really Pittsburgh just stole the show.
Yeah, you got to watch some great hockey.
Crosby and Malkin both played out of this world.
Yeah, exactly.
Letang played great as well.
Yeah.
Some guys in Ottawa stepped up as well. Like you had Greening as the playoff hero for that 1 game. Like he kind of came out of nowhere for Ottawa fans. Greening's really made an impression on the Senators. You had Method and a couple other rookies. Really
the thing about that though is, I mean, especially because some of those guys may be rookies but are in their mid-20s. You have to question whether or not they're going to have repeat seasons. Like
a lot of guys do that, right? Like they have,
especially because it was a short lockout year too.
This is true. They have the playoff heroics, and the guys sort of disappear the next year. Kreider in New York, for example, was a playoff hero from New York last year, and this year sort of had a subpar season.
I still haven't seen Tyler Seguin step up, and that was when Boston won the Cup. He was a major player there. So.
Yeah, and it's been a couple of years since he's really been lights out. Of course, he's still really young. He's only 21 years old.
Yeah, that's true. But we looked kind of like waiting for his breakout year as well, because he has a lot of talent, and they need him right now, because no one is really firing for the Boston Bruins as of late. I mean,
no,
they won the series pretty dominantly, but that's just, I would say, only because the Rangers played worse.
Yeah.
Their best player was easily Henrik Lundqvist. I mean, he was the only guy who showed up night in and night out.
Everyone else looked kind of invisible.
Yeah, until they realized they were on the ropes, and even the last game that they lost, it looked like it was their biggest effort yet. So they did show up to that, but you shouldn't have to be down 3-0 before you act that way.
No, I mean, going back to Pittsburgh, Ottawa, I was a little surprised that Anderson, although he played well at times, he was very inconsistent. And they even had to rely on Leonard, their rookie stud goalie.
If only Anderson had played like that in the Montreal series. Like,
I know,
right?
I know, right? How do you feel about that as a Habs fan?
Yeah, no kidding. Like,
well, Leonard came in and played really well.
I mean, but any goalie, hold on, before that we go, any goalie can look bad against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that has to be an asterisk.
But it must be nice for Sens fans to know that they have Leonard in the wings, because he's just going to be an absolute lights-out goalie. Like, without a doubt, the top young prospect in the game right now for goaltenders. Yeah. So Ottawa is really safe in net for the next 10 years probably. And Carlson, he looked really good. Not fully recovered from his injury.
No, fair enough.
But he still looked good. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, you just can't stop Pittsburgh's firepower. They just had too much depth, and as well coached as Ottawa was, and as amazing a season as they had, keep in mind, we reiterate this every show, Ottawa has no business being in the playoffs this year. If it wasn't for the stellar coaching of McLean, they wouldn't have made it, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Sens fans have to feel proud about the season and know that they lost just to a better team, and that happens. So skipping forward now to Boston, New York, which we touched on briefly there. Boston won in, what was it? What was the series?
Boston won in 5 games as well.
Boston won in 5, so they won 4-1. We both said 7. We both thought New York would step up more than they did.
That's for sure. I mean, I regretfully picked the New York Rangers as I had picked them earlier on in the season, but I did call 7 anyways. Even if I was going to call Boston, I thought it was going to be a long one, and the fact that New York didn't win a game was shocking to me. But the Stars didn't show up, and when your best players don't play, I mean, you're not going to win games. It's that simple.
Yeah. So Boston swept them, right? It wasn't even New York didn't even win.
No, they did win one.
Oh, New York did win one.
Yeah,
game?
They were down 3-0, and they won a game.
That's right. They won the 4th game. The overtime goal by Stepan. Right. Absolutely. It's surprising. I mean, we both said in the round 2 preview show that. The New York-Boston game had the potential to be very good. I mean, you got 2 original 6 teams going at each other, both very physical, both play very interesting and exciting styles. But yeah, it was a bit underwhelming. I mean, New York just didn't show up.
And for 2 talented teams and 2 very physical teams, it just wasn't an exciting series. I mean, I am always a big fan of Eastern hockey because over the last 5 to 10 seasons, the philosophy has been that the West is more physical and more like a chess game, and the East is fast and scoring, and that is just not the case, especially in these playoffs right now. I mean, watching LA and San Jose, even though it was a low-scoring affair, that was strictly because of the goalies. I mean, you look at the East, and Boston has so many players that can score goals, and we saw none of them, and New York's top line should have been shredding it.
Maybe you should thank Lundqvist then. I mean, Lundqvist had a lot to do with the
he
fact
did
he was
play
so
great.
Low scoring. I mean,
that's true.
He was their best player.
Yeah, that is very true. But I would say Rask wasn't like spectacular. He was in a lot of games, but
he wasn't as good as Lundqvist.
Yeah,
New York scorers just didn't take advantage. They just couldn't get the system. I mean, Tortorella benches Brad Richards in the final game,
which made him look like a genius when he did it in game. But, I can't believe he benched him for 2 games. Like, did he think that was going to be his good luck charm?
I don't know.
Torts, you almost saved your job by benching him in 1 game and winning.
Looked brilliant.
It looked brilliant. You got to bring him back, even if he doesn't perform. You did everything you could,
and then you bench him again.
But you bench him again, and that's just a risky move, my friend.
Lots of predictions saying that Brad Richards might be one of the compliance buyouts this year at the offseason. Like New York may buy him out.
That's so fast, though. I mean, like that's the thing.
Only 2 years, I think.
Well,
2 seasons.
Is it like the same ownership when we had that crazy? I know it's not, but I mean, like it feels like it is.
It is. Yeah, Matt MSG owns the New York Rangers.
No, but I mean, like the GM and the players and that. No, that's changed, and the philosophy still seems to be the same. Is like
pay lots of money
for high scorers.
Yeah,
but they're kicking them out so fast. I mean, they're the reason the Gomez contract existed. They're the reason that all of these. Like they're the main reason we had lockouts. Like, come on,
they were. New York was more responsible for overspending than pretty much.
And they're still doing it. They're still wrecking it for everybody else. I mean, like, there's no way Brad Richards should be earning what he earns. And you know what,
$6.5 million a year for another 8 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's no way he's going to be that good. And the free agency market makes a joke.
I mean, he's a very good player. He is a star.
The talented players that don't get that money.
He's been an all-star in the past. He's been one of the world's best. He had a bad year. Not to say that he won't bounce back, but it does seem very likely that the Rangers. But at the
same time, when you spend $6 to $7 million on a player, that should be your key 3 guys. Like, and I don't know if honestly, as Richards is that. Like, he's a top line forward for sure.
Yeah,
but mostly a top 6. Like, I think that he's just getting to the point where he's not as great as he used to be.
Yeah, he's what is it, 30, 31, 32 now? So he's getting a bit older. But yeah, his performance was one of the reasons it led to John Tortorella getting fired, which we talked about last show. We kind of predicted that if the Rangers lost, Tortorella would probably get let go, and that's what happened. He got fired pretty much a few days after the series ended, and I'm not surprised. I mean, it really looked like it looks like he lost the room in that series, much like how Vigneault kind of lost the room in the San Jose-Vancouver series. I saw sort of parallels to what Vancouver went through with what New York went through. It really looked like they were disinterested in the coach. They were disinterested in the style. His message is worn thin. One reporter, I can't remember who, put it very well in the sense that Tortorella is the guy that you have on your team for like 2 to 3 years. His message works great for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But based on how aggressive he is and how
I'm just going to get on your nerves right away.
With the medium.
That's the thing. It's he's going to irritate you, and you're going to, like, if you don't see success fast, it's not worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not surprising to see him be let go, but at the same time, I would not be surprised at all if he got another job pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of teams looking for coaches, and lots of teams that probably can see him being the kind of guy. I mean, he's a great soundbite. There's no lie. Like, he's very entertaining as a fan to watch.
Well, it's funny because you bring up his strategy of, like, a short-term success. Like, he gets in there, he gets aggressive, and he gets results, and you get rid of him. And that's that's how you use Tortorella as a proper coach. And so it's funny that we talk about him not going to Vancouver, and there's no way that they're going to do it, because they're on paper a team that would realistically be perfect for that setup. They're in the last few years of the talent that they have left. They need someone to push the talent that they have before it's too late, because they don't have enough young guys coming up in the next 3 to 5 years to make a smooth transition. It's going to be a rough little go here.
Whereas the Rangers do. Like, the Rangers got McDonough, they got Stepan, they got Zuccarello, starts with their defenseman. They got lots of young guys, Kreider in the system. The Rangers are going to be set for quite a while now. They got a good young core.
They don't need a coach that's going to drive the players.
It's interesting because part of me would not at all like Tortorella to be here, but another part of me kind of sees your point, and I would almost be interested in seeing what it would be like as a Canucks fan for him being here just for a couple of years.
Right?
Just give him a 2-year contract, see what he can do with the core.
Because at this stage, there's no risk. That's what you're going to do, because you're going to have to blow up the roster eventually.
Anyways, the core is going to be... the core is realistically going to get shaken up quite a bit this offseason anyways.
Yeah.
But within the next 2 years, even more so, because the guys will get that much older. So yeah, I mean, Tortorella, it would be entertaining from the media perspective, from our perspective. Covering him, it'll be fun.
And you might get short-term results, and that's what Vancouver needs.
And he is a great soundbite. He's very entertaining.
Who cares if he's not good 4 years from now, because neither is your roster really going to be.
Yeah.
Utilize the talent you
make an interesting point.
Right?
That
just came to me now. I didn't even think of making that argument because of how many Canucks fans have made the argument against having Tortorella.
He wouldn't be my first choice. I would still...
Fair enough. There's a lot
I would still prefer Eakins overall. If we could be lucky enough to land him, I think he'd be amazing for the team based on how he plays and how he coaches.
That's a long-term strategy, and obviously if you can fill a long-term strategy or long-term role, that's what you do first.
And keep in mind, Gillis is going to blow up the roster in a sense that he has said they are getting younger in the offseason. So
he's got to fight for his job too. So.
Exactly, but at the same time, if Tortorella winds up here for a couple of years, if not just for the sound bites alone, that would be pretty entertaining to watch. Although I got to admit, how he treats the media, that does get stale after a while, and I'm sure the Vancouver media would probably. Be a little bit opposed to him coming here in the sense, but the other way...
Not that should have any sway on the situation.
Of course not.
If anything, if I'm an owner, I'm going, that's something I want.
If anything, that would be funny to see...
Except in Montreal.
If anything, that would be funny to see how people deal with it, just because he's such a nightmare for media to deal with, but that's almost kind of the fun, right? So, I don't know. It would be a very polarizing decision if he came here. But I would be probably pretty confident to say for every Canucks fan that would hate Tortorella here, there'd probably be just another one just as much who'd be like, yeah, give him a shot. Just give him a couple seasons.
That's all it is.
Just see what happens. See what happens, But yeah, we're totally going off of talking Canucks now.
Whatever. We're down to only 4 teams, and we got to fill an hour.
Yeah, so. This is true. Yeah, Tortorella getting fired. That was the biggest storyline of the last week. Obviously, in the playoffs, it ultimately ends up coming down to the series themselves. So you are stretching thin storylines a little bit right now, looking for stories. So Tortorella getting fired is a big story, and it'll be very interesting to see where he winds up.
Yeah, I'm almost. As great as the Stanley Cup playoffs have been, I'm almost really more excited for the offseason because teams...
Well, yeah, sure, our teams are out of it.
No, duh. But I mean, in the sense of, just the NHL in general, because this is, the first full season with the new CBA, so teams are taking it a little bit more seriously, I think, because of all of the confusion leading up to the half season. Everybody was a scramble. We didn't get to even see teams that were fully prepared with the new rules.
The lockout messed up a lot of teams, not just our teams. The lockout messed up a lot of teams.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm excited for this offseason because we're going to see moves that are made by people who are only thinking about the team at that point and not thinking about the contract that they have to sign.
The style of game has changed a bit. It's gotten a little more defensive. There's a lot of...
Ideally, we'll see some rule changes. Come on, no-touch icing. Come on. A much larger
emphasis on defense, it seems, and a much larger emphasis on younger talent. So it'll be interesting to see where teams go.
We're seeing the shrink in the goalie pads, right?
Yep. The goalie pads are going down. A huge thing, obviously, that we've talked about many times is the salary cap being lowered by $6 million.
Yeah, and realignment, which we've also talked about.
For those that don't know as well, compliance buyouts, when we say that, every team is allowed to buy out 2 players and not have it count against your cap. Normally, when you buy out a player, 1/3 to 2/3 of the salary goes against your cap the next year. 2/3 if they're 26 or older, 1/3 if they're under 26. This, because of the lockout, every team is allowed to buy out 2 players, so... I'm going to use the Canucks as an example because I know that team the best. For example, the Canucks buy out Keith Ballard and David Booth, who both make about $4.5 million a season. That $9 million, the owner has to pay those players for the remainder of the contract. So the players are getting paid, the owners pay the players, but it won't go against your salary cap, and every team is allowed to do that. You have that flexibility. The reason they're doing that,
that's amazing.
The reason they're doing that is because teams don't have a choice. They'll have to buy out players
just for the season, is what you mean?
Just for this 1 year.
Yeah, okay.
But they don't have a choice. They have to let them do that because how else are they going to get them down by $6 million? Some teams have the space already, but at least half the teams in the NHL are in the $3 to $4 million window where that's all they have to spend. Yeah. Your team being one, mine being another.
And the teams that have the space have that much more of an advantage. I mean, it's not that they're not allowed to do a compliance buyout. So they could drop their salary another $6 million or another $8 million, and all of a sudden they're $10 to $12 million under the cap and can buy some of those players that have been bought out.
Yeah,
so that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is also one of the best entry drafts in history too. Right?
Yeah, we're gonna be. I actually just wrote that down because I want to touch on that right before we move into round 3 because there's some really interesting storylines that emerged out of the entry draft race with the Memorial Cup just happening.
Just go into it, just right now, because it's on your mind. We haven't even done the West.
All right, fine. Just do it. All right, so the Memorial Cup just happened, and the interesting thing about that, most of you know what that is, but it's the top 2 junior teams in the U.S. and Canada face off against each other. And the 2 teams that faced off against each other happen to be the 2 teams that have the top 3 players in the entry draft. So it was the first overall pick versus the second and third overall pick, McKinnon and Drouin, and the first overall pick, whose name is suddenly eluding me all of a sudden. But the first overall pick, the defenseman, facing off against the second and third overall pick. And based on the fact that the Mooseheads, the Halifax Mooseheads, who McKinnon and Seth Jones, he's the first overall pick. He plays for the team that faced them. The Mooseheads had Nathan McKinnon and Jonathan Drouin as the second and third overall pick, but because the Mooseheads won and McKinnon had a 5-point night in the win, he is now being projected as the first overall pick by most scouts.
Forwards tend to go first anyways. I mean, like, if you have the opportunity to increase your scoring and increase your defense, you're probably going to get more goals. It
was a great game. For those that didn't watch it, like, the Memorial Cup is hockey that rivals the NHL hockey level. Like, it's the best junior players in the world, pretty much, playing against each other. So it's a level of hockey that rivals NHL playoff hockey, and that's not a stretch. It actually does. It's incredible hockey, because everything's on the line, and it's only one game. It's not a best of 7.
And they're not getting paid.
No, they're not getting paid. It's one game. These kids, they're there to prove to the NHL that they belong. Yeah. So they're fighting for spots. And to see the top 3 players in the entry draft fighting it out against each other was just awesome. And it'll be interesting to see what happens now, because McKinnon had this 5-point night, just an explosive night, undressed Seth Jones a couple times even, who's supposed to be the first overall pick. But the funny thing is that Colorado has that first overall pick. They got 3 amazing centers. Like, they got Duchesne.
That's very true.
They got Duchesne, Stastny, and Landeskog. They need a defenseman. Seth Jones is the guy they would pick, hands down, almost in any other situation, because they don't have any defense. And Seth Jones is being projected as not only a franchise player, but a player of Erik Karlsson's skill level. Like, he could be one of the best defensemen in the world for the next 20 years, however long he plays. So he is a franchise defenseman. He's like a Chris Pronger-style defenseman who's a little bit more skilled defensively. He will be your defensive stalwart for many years to come. But now I wonder, because of how McKinnon played and undressed Jones even a couple times, do you think maybe
it shouldn't
the Avs would take a chance on McKinnon? Because he is going to be a franchise player.
You're giving a gift to whoever's next, but
he's going to be a franchise player as well.
You can't make that move. I mean, where are you going to fit him in the lineup? Your 3 centers are so young.
Well, the argument is they might buy out Stastny or try and trade him. Of course, I don't know.
That's the most likely scenario.
But he gets paid $6.5 a year.
Not that we need to cover the Colorado Avalanche right now.
He gets paid $6.5 a year. It's just an interesting storyline that emerged over the last few days, because the Avs a few days ago were like, yeah, Seth Jones, we're taking him. But now with McKinnon, and Patrick Waugh goes on the air and says, we wouldn't be opposed to even trading the first overall pick. That's another storyline we got to cover. I totally forgot about that.
Sakic and Waugh.
Patrick Waugh, the best goalie of all time, pretty much next to Martin Brodeur. Patrick Waugh was named the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche,
which is very exciting. I mean, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, I'm stoked to see him back involved in the NHL again.
And he's a very great character player.
It's going to be great the first time they
face off.
He's a character.
He's like a Tortorella.
Like, I cannot wait for the fans' reception when he plays his first game in Montreal.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
It's going to be incredible.
He's like a Tortorella. He's a soundbite. But he's also a very good coach. He had a lot of success in the juniors years with the Ramparts, and then you got Joe Sakic.
And he takes the organization very seriously, and so it's good that he's on the Avalanche, because it is a place for him that's close to home, and that's the reason he did so well with the Ramparts, is because he was vested in that organization from top to bottom.
He was the GM.
Yeah,
he did
exactly. And his son played for the team. When he gets into it, so especially with Sakic being there because they played together, it's going to be way better for Colorado to have some passion behind the organization.
Yeah, exactly. And but it was funny because Wah went on the air and said, we wouldn't be opposed to trading our first overall pick. The coach never says that. That's not his job. And Sakic came on right after and was like, yeah, we could potentially trade the first overall pick because the return would be incredible. But it's just funny to see Wah say that because already he's acting out of character because coaches never say that. Most GMs, if the coach said that, would be like, what are you doing? You stick to coaching.
I'll trade.
You worry about the coaching stuff. I'll worry about the trades. But it makes you wonder now because with the way McKinnon played, would they be willing to risk not drafting Jones? I still think they draft Jones because they need a defenseman. But if they could parlay that trade into an incredible return, or maybe even a couple lesser defensemen, maybe that could happen as well. So going back to your point, that is going to make for a very exciting draft day and a very exciting offseason.
Yeah.
Totally sidetracked.
Well, yeah, whatever. You gotta do it.
It happens. It just totally skipped my mind. The Memorial Cup just happened, and it was a great game. I really want to talk about it. Detroit, Chicago.
We covered most of the series in the previous show. This is why I wasn't too worried about it. We really only have to cover game 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
Which all went to Chicago.
Yeah, we both said Chicago in 7. Or sorry, we both said Chicago in 6 and 5 respectively. Chicago 1 and 7. This was the best series of the last round.
Hands down.
Just incredible. And Chicago and Detroit are...
Both goalies were spectacular. To see Zetterberg and Datsuk play just like they've played for the past 5-10 years, there's no slowing those guys down.
People were questioning whether Zetterberg could be a good captain, and he shut everyone up.
Oh yeah, he's spectacular.
He was brilliant.
Yeah.
People were questioning Jonathan Toews. Would he show up? Where was his leadership? They come back from a 3-1 deficit, I should say. Detroit was up 3-1. Chicago comes back to win it. Chicago, obviously, they had an amazing year, so it's not like it was a surprise necessarily that they did this. But this is the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah.
They're their nemesis. It's
not easy to come back 3-1 against
in many respects, they're a team of equal caliber.
Well, especially with Jimmy Howard. He definitely outplayed Crawford.
Babcock as the coach. I thought Babcock largely outcoached Quenneville. I really felt that comeback was spurred on by Toews.
Yeah, the number one player I feel bad for the Red Wings is Howard. I think he played better than anybody else on the ice in and game out.
He severely outplayed Crawford.
Oh my God.
He stood on his head.
Yeah, so many ridiculous
Crawford
saves.
was very good, but Howard was lights out.
Yeah.
That was an incredibly good series. Very entertaining. My favorite of the last round. It says a lot for Detroit and how incredible this franchise is, even in their quote-unquote worst year in many years, where they barely squeak into the playoffs in that 8th seed, and they take the best team in the league next to the Penguins to 7 games.
Yeah,
and it just shows the character of the Blackhawks and how amazing a leader that Jonathan Toews is to come back from that 3-1 deficit and win that series.
Yeah, it was really amazing. The thing about Jonathan Toews is he's one of my favorite players, and I was a little bit worried about him in the first 2 rounds because I didn't see the spark that I did see when they won the Cup 4 years ago. And now's the time. If this is when he's going to show up, great, because the rest of his team is talented enough to get them where they are. And if he shows up, every team along the way from now on is going to have to be scared. Yeah. Very, very scared.
Yeah, Chicago, I agree with you there. They hadn't really found their legs up until this point. They'd played decent hockey against the Wild, and the first 4 games in Detroit, they weren't really playing at 100%. They were at about 75%, whereas Detroit was just run and gun. They were just destroying them. Chicago really, in that 6th game, more so I should say, really found their stride and really started to play for the first time since the season ended like they played during the year. They became the Blackhawks of the season we just saw, where they went on that 23-game unbeaten streak or whatever.
It took them to be down 3-1 before they chose to do that, but the scary thing is they can choose to do that.
And now they're on their game, which should make the team they're playing next, which we'll discuss shortly, feel very scared because the Blackhawks have found their stride for sure. The next series, a very low-scoring series, but still a very entertaining one. You have LA versus San Jose. We both picked LA in 6. Or sorry, you picked LA in 6. I picked LA in 7. LA did end up winning a 7. It was close for a while because it looked like San Jose might have found that extra gear to top them, to beat them. LA wasn't really playing 100%. It was
but Jonathan Quick was.
He was throughout the entire series. That was the only reason I think LA won at all at the end of the day, because San Jose was, for the first few games, heavily outplaying them in many respects. But Quick just kept him in it. Quick was outstanding, as great as Niemi was.
Up until the final minute of Game 7. I mean, like, you just watch... If you watch the first 5 minutes of the very first game and the last 5 minutes of the very last game, he's still making his incredible saves. And you can trust me that the whole series was the same all the way through.
It was.
Like,
he looked like the
highlight reel every night.
Yeah, he looked like the Jonathan Quick that won the Cup last year.
Yeah.
Like, LA looks like a team now. They look like the team of last year, where they know what it takes to win. They have that drive to succeed, and they look like they could contend for a cup. And I would almost say any other team that plays Chicago who doesn't have a prayer against the Blackhawks, but I think LA is going to give them the
especially like they're both tired after 7. I mean, like, Chicago just had a bit of a wake up call, and I would say LA is better than Detroit. I mean, like that would have been like Detroit LA would have been another 7-game series that we would have seen. So it's going to be scary for the Blackhawks for sure. And
this will be their first real, as difficult as Detroit was, LA is at a whole different level. This is going to be the first real major challenge for the Blackhawks. Yeah. They won't be able to afford to do what they did against Detroit and not show up for a few games. Well, they will have to show up every single night, or LA will take them to school.
Oh, exactly. And the thing for me is that, like, as a Canadian hockey fan, goaltending is something that comes largely historically from Canada, and especially being a fan of French Canadian hockey, it usually pains me greatly when the best goalie in the league or the best goalies in the league are not from Canada. And like, for Jonathan Quick to be in this situation right now, I just watching him and the way that he plays his game, I cannot help but just be in awe of, like, I would want him on my team regardless of nationality.
Well, dude, Sochi, your top 3 American goalies for Sochi realistically are going to be
don't say Miller.
Well, he could be one of them.
Yeah, but nobody's going to argue that after the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, Miller or Schneider would be the third, and then your top pairing would be Quick and Howard. I mean, Quick and Howard is your top 2 goalies for your Olympic team. That would terrify any opposing squad.
Yeah, and especially because, like, what we're looking at and Team Canada is, like, going to be Price and probably Ward and or Luongo. Luongo now probably looking like a better choice, maybe just because of Olympic experience. Like, you put Price in that situation, and that's a whole new ballgame.
You know what? It's
like,
funny,
when you put Jonathan Quick in as a Stanley Cup winner, you got faith there.
I know you're a Habs fan, and you're going to hate me for saying this, but there are a lot of NHL analysts around the world predicting that actually Luongo might get the start.
Marty Brodeur said that he would start as well. So it's, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay because I would rather
probably get the third spot, more so out of he's Martin Brodeur, but I don't think Brodeur would get the starting job.
No, Brodeur was saying that Luongo would get it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, yeah. No, that's what Brodeur was saying. Brodeur was saying that if he were to choose, he would pick Luongo.
I think right now, I mean, Price, he's amazing.
The thing is we have one more season. That's the only thing that could change it.
Yeah.
And for me, as like a Canadians fan, I don't hate that situation because I would much rather Price come in to pick up Luongo's pieces than Luongo come in to pick up Price's pieces.
And Luongo's been there. He's won it. He's
Price's
done it.
Pieces. Now I want a snack.
Reese's Pieces. Oh, I'm starving now. We should get a Reese's Pieces sponsorship and just change the name to Price's Pieces.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll work on that. But yeah, I mean, it's... we're digressing again, but yeah, I mean, it's
into candy,
and Olympics. But yeah, I mean, I think Luongo gets the start just because his experience. He's done it once already, and I think he's the guy they go to. But as you said, if Luongo falters on whatever team he's on next year, and Price plays, lights out hockey for 4 months straight, tables turn, Price may get the starting job. Yeah, exactly. Either way, they're both going to be there. I think they're both one.
That's for sure.
It's the 1-2. I'm pretty sure.
If Luongo is that terrible next year, no matter where he goes, then you could see Price Ward, and then Luongo is your third. But
based on how
they're all making the flight.
Based on how Luongo looked in the first round, and even before Schneider wrestled the starting job away from him, he was very good for us this year. Very good
for sure.
So yeah, we
round three,
as we've already sort of talked about a little bit, Chicago versus LA.
Yeah, we pretty much covered that. I mean, some of the stats, like Jonathan Quick is the most shutouts. He's got 3 shutouts right now. He's leading in goals against and save percentage. I'm not even worried about looking.
LA will be more physical and has the goaltending edge, so I give that advantage to them. Both teams have great leadership, and both know how to win, but I say Chicago's depth will get them the win ultimately.
And I give Chicago the coaching, hands down.
Yeah, Chicago wins in 7 in my prediction.
See, like, if Chicago's down 3-1, they could get out. If LA's down 3-1, I'm thinking that's over.
Yeah.
Right? So
Chicago in 7, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We should also mention as
just because of Quick, again, like, I think that Chicago's enough to shut down most of the roster of the LA Kings, especially when they want to. But it doesn't matter. If you get to that goal line and Jonathan Quick says no, he'll steal them games straight up.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. We should also mention as well, all 4 of the teams, this is the first time since 1945, the 4 remaining teams are the last 4 teams to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. So and even including Detroit, the last 5 teams left were the last 5 teams to win the Stanley Cup.
And that says something, because all 4 of these teams, that means that's why I say both series in 7, because all 4 of these teams know how to win the cup. The rosters are virtually unchanged. They all have incredible leadership. Although Chicago and Pittsburgh are the favorites, Boston can beat Pittsburgh, and LA can beat Chicago. Yeah. It's very possible you will see a Boston-LA final. Yeah. It's not at all unlikely. So, I mean, that's the thing, and which is why this third round, as great as the second round was, I think the third round is going to be even better, because you have literally...
Well, and as we covered, the second round in the East wasn't that great.
No, it was really the Western Conference.
The West is what took the show, yeah.
I think both of these series are going to be spectacular.
Yes.
I think Pittsburgh-Boston is just going to be incredible, and I think Chicago-LA is going to be incredible as well.
Yeah.
LA will probably try and get them to play a lower-scoring game, but if Chicago's on their game, I think they're going to make LA play more offensively, which is good, because LA can. They have the tool.
They can do it.
They can score.
Especially with Carter and Richards, who really haven't come out of their shell yet. I mean, they've been showing up, but we haven't seen like the explosion we saw last year.
And Brown and Kopitar can be even better.
Yeah.
Justin Williams.
Doughty.
Justin Williams has been great.
Game 7, he got both goals.
Yeah, and he's had, 5 Game 7 goals now?
I'm sorry, we have to go back. Because I wanted to cover Game 7 specifically about Detroit and Chicago.
Because of Justin Williams?
No. Sorry, this reminded me of something completely different. Detroit, Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Detroit, Chicago, Game 7, the disallowed goal.
Oh, that was brutal,
With a minute and a half to go. I mean, we keep going back to reffing, but for those of you who didn't see it, you have to check this out. It's ridiculous.
One of the stupidest calls I've ever seen.
Unbelievable! The ref near the bench makes a penalty call, offsetting minors to 2 players who are wrestling against the bench, while literally gestures blowing the whistle as a slap shot is happening towards Howard.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous that they would even think. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was that called off.
Nobody could.
It was just astounding.
Chicago, it's not uncommon for that to happen sometimes, but
with a minute to go in Game 7 with a goal,
refs will usually ignore that stuff, especially if the play is in motion. If there wasn't a play happening, fair enough, but the goal was in progress of being scored as the call was made. How do you make a call like that? Could you imagine if that call was waved off and Detroit won in overtime and cost Chicago their season because of that blown call? That would just
There should not be less of an outcry right now because Chicago won. That is the biggest mistake the NHL can make.
That call perfectly encapsulates how terrible the reffing has been all year.
And
we've been saying this since our first show. All year, the reffing has been bad.
And that is why I am making a solid statement right now that Chicago is going to win the Stanley Cup, because they did 2 things against the Detroit Red Wings. First of all, when you're down 3-1 against the Detroit Red Wings, coming back is ridiculous. But second of all, when you score a goal with a minute 15 to go in the third period of Game 7, which is essentially the game-winning goal, and it is ripped from your hands like that,
only to come back,
not even to come back and play a game, to come back 3 minutes into overtime and make the shot. And this is the best part for me, because as much as I love Howard, Seabrook was like, Howard, I'm putting this right in the same corner that you just got scored on, and you're still not going to stop it. And sure enough, it went right to that corner. And it was a statement. That goal was a statement. And
Seabrook, the Chicago Blackhawks
we're not going down. We're not going down. And that makes them the scariest.
Although, unfortunately, it did also get deflected off of Cronwall, which is why Cronwall was
slumped,
which was a great image, actually. Cronwall was slumped over at the end, and Howard came up to him and just gave him a big hug. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. You played a great series, which he did. Cromwell felt bad because it went off of him. And he backed up a little more probably than he should have. He was probably surprised that Seabrook made the play because he's not an offensive defenseman.
No.
He doesn't usually do stuff like that.
But in overtime, you got to put that game away.
And you know what's also funny as a Canucks fan, a couple Canucks media guys made a point about this, is the Seabrook goal, the play that caused the Seabrook goal was a cross-check into the boards.
That no one called.
Identical to the Sedin hit that cost them the game, and it cost them the series. The hit was carbon copy of what Daniel did on Wingles.
Yeah.
And it was carbon copy. He just staples him to the board. It wasn't a penalty. The Sedin hit wasn't a penalty really either. It shouldn't have been. But it was a carbon copy hit. No call, of course. Because
it's not a penalty to begin with.
It shouldn't have been, no. And it was probably a makeup call as well because he felt bad of Walcom, I should say. The ref felt bad of disallowing that goal. But yeah, it was a cross-check along the boards, and that resulted in the turnover that caused the goal. I just found it funny because it was like carbon copy of the Sedin hit. Yeah. But yeah, it's good that you brought it up. And you know what? It brings me back to that series. What made me so impressed by that is when those guys shook hands at the end of the game, no hatred between them.
No.
Two opponents that
so
had
much respect.
utmost respect for each other. Two of the best teams in the world.
That's what hockey's about right there.
They all looked at each other in the eye. There were guys that were talking for like a minute at a time before the lineup kept going. Sometimes teams really hate each other and just won't look and will shake briefly and move on. But these guys, it really made you happy to be a hockey fan and show people why this sport is so amazing, is because you saw the respect and the admiration for just the utmost of professionals, that the series was over, they left everything at the door, everything that had happened, they'd forgotten about. At the end of the day, they just shake hands and say, great series. Yeah. And that is just awesome to see. Yeah. Another reason why I thought that was the best series is they just, the amount of respect between those two teams, bitter rivals stretching back 80 years, the love that they showed each other there was just,
awesome.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was a really great moment. And seeing Howard go up to Cromwell, give him that big bear hug was just awesome. Because it's just, it really makes you happy to be a hockey fan. For sure. Man, we're just all over the map tonight, aren't we?
Well, like that's the best part right now. Is just like, why not, right?
It's awesome because before the show we spend like an hour working out or like sometimes up to an hour working out the details of the show. Usually we follow it pretty well. Tonight we're just all over the map.
We keep remembering stuff. Mind you, it is later. It's later than it usually is.
Yeah, this is a late night. This is a late night recording for sure. Drinks have been consumed. But yeah, so the Chicago-LA series, leading back to that. And leading back to what we were saying, how all of these four remaining teams are winners and know how to win and have that leadership, that's what's going to make the hockey so compelling, because none of the teams will roll over.
No.
Boston isn't going to lay down, neither will A.
Not down 3-0, not down at all.
Yeah.
Ever,
So you're picking Chicago to win the cup.
Cup. I just have to, based on what I just said, like that, the argument I just created.
Yeah.
I can't see it like I want to see, and
I
was talking to you about this first.
Pittsburgh. I'm still saying Pittsburgh.
Well, it's funny because I don't even want to talk about the East. I don't want Pittsburgh. I don't want Pittsburgh at all, because to me it's like they're great, and I want to see Crosby win and all that good stuff. But they're buying a cup. They're just clearly better than everybody, and I just can't cheer for a team who is hands down the best. Like, it's just, if on paper you were going to go, oh well, these numbers are the highest, I'm going to cheer for you. That's the only reason I just don't want to do it.
The main reason why I would give it to Pittsburgh, as incredible of a team as Chicago is, and as correct.
Well, they're better. They're the most likely team. I'm going to pick Chicago, but there's no question. If I had to put money somewhere, it would be on Pittsburgh.
I mean, Chicago.
That's where the smart money
Chicago,
goes.
you say you are correct in how Taves, his leadership has really come into the fold, and they've really found their game. But remember this, Crosby so far has been playing at 50% capacity.
Oh, yeah, less maybe.
50% capacity. He's going to get better every series. By the final round, he'll be at 110%. You don't stop.
So I might be saying go Boston? Just because Boston has a less chance of beating the
Chicago
Western finalists?
Chicago has to hope that Boston can somehow figure the Penguins out, because if Crosby's flying at 110% for the last round, there is not a single player in the Blackhawks that can shut that man down. Yeah. He is a one-man wrecking crew. He can score 3 goals a night. You can't stop him. Like, there's no defense. There's no defensive system in place to stop Crosby at 110%. And he'll get there. The mask is off now. Every game he looks better and better and better. Malkin as well, looking better and better and better. And Kane and Keith and Seabrook and even Sharp have been average, really. I mean, they haven't looked great yet. None of them. Taves really...
They could, and I mean, all it takes is a player...
They would have to. They would have to show up.
But that's all it takes. All it takes is for you to see Crosby on the ice, coming at you, and for him to make you look stupid once, and Seabrook's going to go, no more.
Okay, they have to wake up.
Yeah.
I mean, so far, Taves, I'd say, has been the catalyst. He's been the guy that's really finally found his game. The rest of the Blackhawks, I don't think, fully have yet.
But when we talk about, like, all these teams, and you're saying, like, they're both going to go to 7, and
LA's going to make them, though. LA's going to make them find their game, because LA is good.
But that's what like, we're going in circles. We're going to keep going in circles all night because they're like, when you look at it, when we say, well, this team should win and this team should win, they all should win the cup. They should all win the cup.
They're all good.
There's nobody weak in the Final Four, and I can't remember a time when it was this solid around. Like, I literally have to say it's like 24%, and then like 27 for Pittsburgh. Like, it's that close.
It is.
Just strictly because
it's a gambler's nightmare.
Because there's so many factors at play. Like, they're both going to go.
Imagine Vegas right now. They're just like running around just in circles.
And everyone's going to be tired because they're both going to go to 7. Yeah. Like, everyone's going to be tired because they're both playing against the best D in the NHL, the best forwards in the NHL. Ideally, the East has a bit of a break because their goaltending is not as good as the West.
But moving along,
that is hands down. Like, the East might get a wake up.
It's true.
Yeah, but the East might get a wake up when they go to the West, and all of a sudden, like, they're playing goalies that are actually like playing. Like Vokun has been good, but not great, and Rask is the same thing.
Yeah,
Quick has been out of this world, and Crawford's been better than both East goalies. Yeah. So that's going to be the story. I think.
I think for the West, the goaltending could be a huge factor. Absolutely,
biggest story for sure.
Moving along into the final round, Boston versus Pittsburgh. Chicago or LA both have to hope that Boston and Pittsburgh just take each other to school, because whoever
Boston, that's going to be number one on their agenda
is physicality. Because that's where they have the advantage. Yeah. Whoever survives the Boston-Pittsburgh series is just going to be demolished physically. I
don't know if Boston comes out of it alive. I mean, if Boston comes out of the series, their goalie might be a little worse for the wear, but I think the players can easily stand up to the physicality of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think that your power forwards on Pittsburgh, if you want to include Iginla and Morrow, are old. Like, then you got the young one is Neil.
Oh, I definitely give the physicality to Boston. I definitely give the physicality to Boston, just like I give the physicality to LA. In theory, if say Pittsburgh and Chicago both win, they're just going to both be demolished.
But Chicago and LA's physicality is still close. I mean, I'm making the argument right now that Boston's physicality is
much greater than
one-sided. It is one-sided.
Just Chicago, I guess, but really, no, I don't know, man. Chicago isn't that physical. They got Bickle, and that's it. They don't got a lot of hitters. They were much tougher when they won the Cup in 2010.
That's true. When they had Buffalo and that.
Yeah,
kind of thing. But I don't think Chicago, I don't think LA is going to take that game to them, because I think LA.
Well, they're going to try, but they may not be able.
They're not going to keep. Yeah, because they're not going to keep up with the players.
Yeah,
and Chicago's not going to have to play that game.
But you could argue the same thing about Boston. They'll try and be physical, but Pittsburgh is just so much deeper that Boston is going to have to play a more.
But their physicality, game. but that's the other argument, is like when you talk about LA, is I believe Boston's physicality is more skilled. Boston physical players are there to be physical. LA's physical players are there to be physical. Boston physical players are guys they're guys like Lucic. They're guys that will burn you. Or like Chara. Chara is going to keep up with, he's tall enough to take steps the size of Crosby.
Well, that was one of my notes. One of the best parts of the series is going to be to see the Chara-Crosby matchup, because that's two of the best players in the world going head-on-head. Chara is going to be draped over Crosby if he can help it, and or possibly Malkin. But that's the thing, right? Chara has to pick one. He can't pick both.
Are they on the same line right now?
Malkin and Crosby? Never.
Yeah, so there you go. So
Chara's
it's not going to be up to Chara.
Chara's going to have his hands
not
full.
Not going to be up to Chara.
Because he picks one guy and the other guy gets let free. So Chara's...
No, but he won't. They're on different lines, right? And defensemen always play more minutes than forwards.
You think they'll do that, though? Because usually in the playoffs you find most coaches pick their top D to cover one guy more than anyone else. I mean,
it's going to be Crosby. That's what I'm saying. Malkin will be on another line against a whole other defensive pairing.
Exactly.
Right? So
but that's going to be the challenge.
Oh, I see. The way you're phrasing it made it sound like Chara was letting him go.
Oh, no.
Chara's going to have to make the decision on the ice. I'm like, that's
what
Julian's
I mean is
call.
Chara's going to have to pick Julian and Chara pick your poison situation, because if Julian's like, Chara, I want you on Crosby all the time, Malkin's going to have free reign.
Open. Which I would make that call. You make that choice any day. Of course you take Crosby over Malkin.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, Malkin can be covered by other defensemen, especially if he's a little off his game. Not that he is right now.
No, and if Malkin is...
But that's the best part about Boston. Who's better at getting you off your game than the Boston Bruins?
It's true.
Who's better at getting you off your game than Brad Marchand?
It's true.
Come on. If anyone's going to hassle Malkin, it's going to be Marchand.
But, I mean, some people consider the best two players in the world to be both Crosby and Malkin in that order. Yeah. So if you cover Crosby and Malkin decides to turn on the Jets... That's going to be hard times for Boston.
That's also a small stage for two big stars, and especially when a Russian mentality comes into play, that can sometimes make it a bad situation.
But that's why I like
when
Malkin.
Skilled players try too hard, they make mistakes.
Malkin is he reminds me of Datsuk in a lot of ways. He's not your prototypical
That's
Russian.
The thing, is he can't really he's not your Ovechkin.
He's a very not to sound like Cherry, but he's a very Canadian or North American Russian player. He is, because he grew up playing hockey in Canada.
Same with Chara. Chara's like that too. Very European born, but played in Prince George. Very, very Canadian mentality.
Yeah, so I mean, Malkin has that work ethic, I think, that some of the Russian guys lack. And then it's going to be great defensively too, because then on the other end of the spectrum, one of your Norris candidates, you got Letang, who
more offensively based. I don't think his defensive game is.
He's very underrated defensively. I was watching him closely last series. I think a lot of guys write him off as an offensive only defenseman,
because he's more of a stick checking defenseman. Like, he makes more of the poke checks and the stick lifts than a lot of defensemen do, and he's successful at them. I mean, his plus minus speaks for that's it.
He's
exactly.
Crafty.
His plus minus speaks for himself. But we're talking about the Bruins, and we're talking about a physical game, and as a defenseman goes against against the Bruins, you're going to have to be physical.
Yeah.
And that is
Letang isn't very physical.
He's not, but he can be. And like we said, we've seen those glimpses. And he is a good stick checker, but he's not a great body checker, I don't think. So
he's fast, though.
He is fast.
And they got to catch him.
Yeah.
So that's going to be his weapon.
Well, offensively, he'll be great. No question.
I like Letang, though, because he's so quick that he's on one end of the ice, and literally within 5 seconds, he's back at the other end. And it must drive forwards crazy because he's just everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
And a physical player like Lucic might go after Letang, but if he can catch him, which he probably won't.
But another story that you have to think about too then is the fact that in a possible scenario is that defensemen like to skate around, like Carlson we saw get caught a couple of times, right?
He did.
So I mean, like if you take advantage of that scenario, then all of a sudden you got a man deep. And
it's funny because both of these series, the more I think about them, the more I think they're both very similar. I can see LA and Boston both putting on the physical edge initially, but ultimately having to forcing them, they will have to change their game plan to a more offensive game to keep up with their opponents. Boston will try and be physical, but they're going to have to start scoring because Pittsburgh will outscore them. Yeah. They're much deeper. LA as well. LA will try and be physical, but Chicago will take them to school if they don't try and be offensive as well. So it's funny, these matchups are very, very much the same in opposite divisions. You have LA and Boston are very much the same teams in how they play. Chicago and Pittsburgh very much the same teams in how they play. So it'll be fun to see how these series progress because the coaches are going to be pulling their hair out because they're going to have to come out with game plans left, right, and center because it's going to be a chess match out there.
Yeah.
And they're both going to be very, very exciting series. And I can't wait. Tomorrow.
Yeah. Game one.
Game one for both, 2 p.m. and 5 p.m.
Cool.
Well, it's been a great show, man.
That's it. Yeah, that went really well.
It went really well. We're very excited, as you could tell, guys, for round 3. As good as round 1 was, as good as round 2 was, round 3 is just going to be incredible hockey. The best hockey you will see all year. Both series, mark my words, are going to be stellar. Starts tomorrow, 2 p.m., CBC. You got to watch it. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name's Justin Boniface. Thanks for listening.
Have a good night.